Welcome everyone to Unity of London. We welcome our guests. We welcome those who are here every Sunday. And that song, by the way, was a special request from our speaker, Wendy Karr. And we totally live this message here at Unity. We welcome everyone, all faiths, all inclinations, all ways of life. We welcome you to Unity of London. If you have a cell phone, please take a moment right now and mute it so it won't be a distraction for our speaker. If you want later on to take any pictures of our speaker and send them to your friends and just let them know that Wendy Karr, licensed Unity teacher, is speaking at Unity of London today. That would be great. Here at Unity, we have a vision and a mission. Our vision is a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. And we also have a mission. Our mission goes along with that vision. And when you think about the mission, it is powerful because it's not saying we do this alone. Please read it with me and just think of what we're saying as we're reading it. Our mission is co-creating with Spirit to transform lives through shared spiritual awakening. How do we do that? We make sure that we are a loving, inclusive, supportive community. Loving and inclusive and supportive. We are all one. And there are only a few things that separate us from each other. Our egos, our fears, and our beliefs can separate us. On the other hand, if we set egos, fears, and beliefs aside and focus on being loving and supportive, we are then united. We believe in promoting self-expression, and we do that by supporting our own self-love, recognizing that each of us is worthy, loving, giving, a source of love. There are 5 principles in Unity, and we operate on those principles. And today, just as a change, I brought Ellen Davenport's little book where she explains those principles. We have books in our bookstore. I'm not sure if this is there right now. But the first principle is about God. And we absolutely believe that God is absolute good, everywhere present. We believe that each of us is a spark of divinity, the Christ within. We are the very essence of God, and therefore each of us is inherently good. We believe that we create our own experience by our thoughts, by the power of our thoughts, by the activity of our thinking. And everything in our life is a manifestation of what we think. We believe that prayer, our affirming, our creative thinking, heightens our connection with Christ within. And it allows us to bring forth wisdom, healing, prosperity, abundance in every way into our lives. And finally, we believe that saying it isn't enough. We need to live it, to live the love, to live the support, to live the caring. Be the change by inspiring people to make a positive difference in the world. Not just suggesting they do it, but making sure we do it. And we provide fellowship and education for spiritual seekers of all walks of life, all ages, all backgrounds, coexisting. Coexisting. Powerful, powerful. We do have special announcements today. And we welcome back Jim Chapman. Jim used to be our musical director, following on the footsteps of Jake Levesque. And Jim will be back on the first Sunday of every month, bringing his own exuberance and his own energy. There are still a few copies of September, October Daily Word in the bookstore. And if you want one that's larger font, which I do, you get them from the bookstore rather than ordering them online. It's a beautiful daily message. Today, our prayer chaplains will be Dawn Briglio. Dawn sitting in the second row, bright orange color, the color of zeal. She'll be in our little prayer chaplain room. You just walk through the fellowship room up the stairs. And all prayers that you share with Dawn are kept in confidence. And Wilda will be online. And this is our next song. This also was a request from our speaker, Wendy Karr.
There's somebody hurting. Someone needs a hand. There's someone out there somewhere suffering. No matter what it is you're going through, this prayer's for you. This prayer's for you. If you've lost a loved one or lost your way, if you find yourself without a place to stay, yeah, no matter what it is you're going through, this prayer's for you. This prayer's for you. For you. Beautiful spirit, sweet child of love. You are holy and you are worthy, and you are always enough. All your troubles and your sorrows now are washed away. With you, my friend, I pray. Somebody hurting. Someone needs a hand. There's someone out there somewhere suffering. No matter what it is you're going through, this prayer's for you. This prayer's for you. This prayer's for you. This prayer's for you.
Powerful song. Thank you, Wendy. And you see a prayer chest on the table in front of you. We know that Silent Unity has been operating for many, many years, more than 130. And if you have someone in your mind that you wish to pray for, to send out loving, affirming thoughts of well-being, you just take one of the papers, put the name only. You don't need to write any message, and you drop it into the prayer chest. Dawn takes those at the end of every month, circulates them to us prayer chaplains, and then she sends them on to Silent Unity, where they will be prayed over. The phone number for Silent Unity is on the screen, 1-800-NOW-PRAY. 24 hours a day. It's a wonderful source of comfort. And we now move into prayer. I invite you to close your eyes, if that feels all right, to relax your body, to breathe in the loving environment in which you are right now, to absorb into your being the knowledge that you are loved, that you are a divine spark. As you breathe that in, as you imagine that prayer within you resonating throughout your whole self, I invite you to affirm to yourself, I am love, I am loved, I am loving. We hold in prayer today all those people all over the world who are praying together, regardless of their faith. We hold in prayer all those people who feel unloved, affirming that they are worthy, loving beings. We also hold in prayer Unity Ministry in Motion and unity.org. We hold in prayer everyone present today, all those who are here right now, those who may be online, those who may watch in the future, that you recognize and celebrate your worthiness as a divine source of love in our universe. Take a moment now just to whisper the names of those close to our hearts. For all of our members of Unity who may be facing extra challenges, physical or emotional, we send loving, affirmative thoughts of your wellness and your strength. Amen. It's now my pleasure to welcome up one of our board members, our vice president actually, and our platform assistant to today, Renee Saba.
Good morning, everyone. Big smiles. Today's daily word is healing. Divine life lives as me. I am whole and well. When I am experiencing a healing need, I focus my thoughts beyond illness and discomfort. Even as I seek treatment for the injury or illness, I see myself whole. I remember that I am created in the image, according to the likeness of God. I know my life is God's life, living as me. Divine life fills every cell, strengthens every muscle, bone, and organ, and quickens every nerve in my body. It restores perfect order to all my body's functions, releasing and replacing anything unlike itself. When someone asks me to pray with them, I do not ask about their symptoms or circumstances. I affirm the healing activity of divine life in each one with whom I pray. I see them as the spiritual beings they are, whole and well. In him was life, and the life was the light of all people. John 1:4. Our guest speaker today is Wendy Karr. Wendy joined the Unity movement in 1984 and received her licensed Unity teacher status in 2000. Best known for teaching history of Unity and Bible courses across Canada, she also serves on teams at the national and international levels. She is honored to be back at Unity of London with her message for us titled Spiritual Order, Past, Present, and Future. Please join me in welcoming LUT Wendy Karr.
Yeah, you can lead. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone online. Good morning, everybody watching this later. Wow, yeah, past, present, and future. Righty. So I don't know about the rest of all y'all. Yeah, I was talking with my friend in North Carolina this week. I can always tell when I've been talking to her. It's the equinox weekend. Anyone else have some stuff coming up, emotional or otherwise, as the days get shorter and we get bombarded with Halloween ads and stuff. So what I want to do today is just, I've been doing a series overall, as I've been speaking at various spiritual communities in the Unity movement, about our 12 powers. And it's based on this nice little booklet. And it's because I've realized, after almost 40 years in the Unity movement, actively participating in my spiritual growth and unfoldment, that spirituality is like a big honkin' piece of cheese. That is cheese on the screen. Can you eat one of those in a single bite, folks? Could you eat them as a meal? Probably not. Maybe if we all sat down with our forks, but we need to break it down into smaller pieces, more manageable pieces. And so that's what our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, did with creating the 12 powers. So as you can see, we've gone through a significant portion of them. And the one for September is order, spiritual order. And the color is olive, as you might have gathered from the back of the screen. The idea is that we take each of these 12 aspects, and I love this booklet. I'm hoping it's on your website somewhere, because it breaks all of the 12 powers down into smaller 7-step descriptions. And I found it very helpful. Some people think, nobody here and nobody online, you know, I'm just saying, that once you get those letters LUT after your name, that everything is perfect. Or if you get the letters REV in front of your name, then everything is definitely perfect. We still struggle spiritually. We still have questions. We still have human issues, taxes, and what groceries am I going to buy, and what am I going to cook for dinner this week? We still have those challenges. And so for me, it's really useful. I ended up printing this on cardstock because the copy I had wore out, because I kept going back to it frequently, just to kind of do a check-in and say, how am I doing with this? So I'm going to walk you through those steps first. And then I want to talk about this past, present, and future, because time right now is on my mind, to quote a song, that why did we create daylight savings time? You know, why? Just why? Because we all know it's going to get darker earlier soon when we fall back. And I'm always confused when I want to call my friend in Saskatchewan. Is she 1 hour behind or 2 hours behind? And what zone is she in right now? So it's a human construct. So since we live in our human existence, let's talk about that as well. So our first level, and as I've said before, I will say it again, I will continue to say it, spiritual growth is not necessarily a linear thing. It's cha-cha. One step to the side, one step to the side, couple steps forward, and then something happens and you take a huge step back, and guilty of this, and start blaming and shaming myself for that big step back. But I needed to take that big step back. So orientation is just that initial step that says, you know what? I think I want to try out this spiritual stuff. You know what? I think I want to do some exploration. So it's just a willingness to let go of the human stuff, even if it's just for 5 minutes while you meditate on it, but just to step out of the world and step into yourself and being willing to do that. Our co-founder writes in Mysteries of Genesis, in the sense mind, so that part of us that is governed by our five senses, there is disorder, manifesting confusion of thought and action, while in divine mind, and he capitalizes it to indicate that he's talking about the spiritual self, everything is in perfect order. Therefore, it is most important, if we are to survive at all, that our thoughts be put in order and kept in harmony with divine intelligence. Yeah, Charles was one for heavy thinking. But I got thinking about, what does that look like? And to me, it looks like that puzzle. Each of those pieces has a particular size and style and shape. And so too, like our lives, where we are perhaps a partner to someone, or we have a job and we have a job title and job expectations, or we're a parent, or we're a godparent for those of us who don't have kids. That we have all these aspects to ourselves that we're putting together on the human level, and remembering that at the core of it, there is still this spiritual aspect. Now, in the booklet, it puts things in singular. I've grouped the next three together, because they really all fit together. They represent ongoing understanding. So by consent, the author writes, it's a mental acceptance and an emotional acceptance. I don't know about you, all y'all, but when my head and my heart are not in alignment with each other, stuff happens. I was going to say something else, but I'm in church, so I won't. But I'm trusting your imagination knows exactly where I went. When my mind wants to do something and my heart's going, oh, not sure about that, it usually, sometimes it does, but usually it doesn't turn out well. And likewise, when my heart has an idea and it gets all excited and my brain starts going, well, is that really a good use of your resources, your time, your talent, your treasure? It doesn't turn out well either. But when I get into a place of mental and spiritual and emotional acceptance, particularly of spiritual principles, for some folks, saying that they have a spark of divinity in them is hard. For some folks, the idea of saying that I have an aspect of God within me that we call the Christ is way too far to go. And yet, we can consent to these aspects of spiritual practices, spiritual principles, spiritual ideas. Cooperation is where you put these ideas into practice as you understand them in the moment. I had the opportunity, I was cleaning out my late husband's office, and I discovered that the reason I couldn't find some notes from a class he and I took was somehow my notes got mixed in with his notebook. And that's why they've been missing, because he put them in a box and put them away. Thanks, Bill. But I looked at them, and those were from 27 years ago. And where I was in my spiritual understanding 27 years ago is not where I am now. I was reminded of where I was, and actually I had forgotten a few things, but I'm in a different space now. Let's face it, the world has changed a bit in the last, 5 years, 3 years for sure, 4 years. So we've got this opportunity to cooperate rather than struggle, and to accept that we change over time. We come to a different understanding of things as we grow, as we learn, as we interact with each other. And then finally, harmony. Well, it's all well and good to say, oh yes, I'm cooperating with, but if you're not in harmony with them, then you're just working at cross purposes all the time. And again, as you understand the spiritual principles in the moment. A quote from our daily word from a little while ago. When we surrender to the principle of divine order and divine timing, we shall cease the anxiety of impatience. And I don't know about your hackles, but mine went up on the word surrender. It's not my favorite word. I tend to replace that mentally with align with or be in integrity with. The idea being, though, that for a little while, a millisecond, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe an hour, we don't focus on our ego. We give the ego a bone and say, go in the corner, go on your bed and go chew on that bone. And I'm going to go meditate or read something inspirational. And you just stay over there and just chomp away on that bone of whatever. That I have learned that as I start my day with meditation, I have a better day. When I worked for the government, I could tell when I, was rushed and didn't get my full meditation time in, because the rest of the day was kind of a struggle. And there were a couple times where I just disappeared at lunchtime. And people were like, were you? I was like, oh, I just went for a little walk, because I could feel I was out of order. I was out of the grounding. And I invite you to do a test. That's the beauty of this, is you can test it. If it doesn't work for you, let it go. You're not going to be blamed, shamed, or guilted. It's an opportunity to do that. And that was something that wasn't possible in my church of origin. My church of origin was very much you believe or else. Unity says, try it out. See if it works for you. See if it aligns with what you innately believe, feel, and understand. So our last 3 steps of the 7 steps are order, freedom, and continuity. And again, these 3 come together. So this is where you get to the point where you've cooperated, you're in harmony, and things start happening. You become aware of how order works in your life. I was thinking about this the other day. I was in the grocery store, and it was slammed, and they didn't have enough tellers or cashiers, whatever they call them. And even the self-checkouts were lined up. And I just said, you know what? I'm not in a hurry. I can just stand here and give thanks that I have a cartload of groceries that are healthful for me, that will feed my body, and that I have the wherewithal to purchase all of these groceries without having to go to my credit card or say, well, yeah, I'll keep the milk, but give away the steak because it's one or the other. That I had the abundance, knowing that even after I paid for my groceries, there was still going to be money in my bank. And funny thing, I was in sort of this reverie of, because the line in front of me wasn't moving. And all of a sudden, this young lady grabbed my arm and said, ma'am, I'm opening up over here. Would you come over here? Now, did it have to happen that way? No. I would like to think that because I wasn't agitated and, screaming for the manager to open up another till, that it just kind of worked for me. Now, does it always work like that? No. One time they took the person behind me and I was like, whatever. They've got to be someplace else clearly, and that they have a greater need than I do. And that's okay. And then you have the freedom to say, you know what? If metaphorically, metaphysically, I fall flat on my face, that's okay too. That if something is out of order and I've misinterpreted something, or my head and my heart weren't in harmony and something went blah, 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 it's okay. We can give ourselves the permission to be free of that guilt, shame, and blame. We can give ourselves the authority to say, I'm going to work with this order. I'm going to be open to whatever comes through me. And continuity is that place where you don't have to think about it. You just are. I have moments, like at the grocery store. I have moments. Do you think that lasted all the way home? Not really. From the grocery store to my place is a really awkward number of streets, and there's construction. But I just kept calm, and trusted that everyone was going to stop at the stop signs and at the red lights, and that I would proceed in an orderly way home. So I'm going to go, usually this is the point at which I stop because I've talked about the 7 steps, but I know I still have some time. I got thinking about how can we draw this into a scriptural story? And what popped into my head was loaves and fishes, or loaves and fish, sorry. I was taught loaves and fishes as a child, and as you can tell, I haven't quite let go of that yet. So I went to my favorite website and I looked it up because I knew it was in all 4 Gospels, because it's one of the few that appears in all 4 Gospels. But what I've forgotten, I'm sure at some point somebody told me, was that there's 2 of these stories in the book of Matthew. And Matthew 15 is the feeding of 4,000. And that's a whole other talk. But let's go to one of them. Let us go to the book of Mark, because scholars agree that Mark is the oldest of the Gospels, and that it might have been, and indeed probably likely was, a source for Matthew and Luke. John is a whole other kettle of fish, and that's a 10-week class, so I'm not going to get there. And just before I jump into Mark, I want to draw your attention to the fact that this story is not limited to Jesus. There are examples in the Hebrew scriptures, in 1st and 2nd Kings, where Elijah and Elisha both perform miracles of abundance. And it's a very similar kind of story. It's not as well. It's kind of like the difference between the Hebrew scriptures ones are sort of like the high school version of Cats versus the Broadway version. You know, Jesus would be the Broadway version with all the sparkle and the lights and the fancy stuff. And the high school still got the principal underneath and they've got the music underneath, but it's not quite as flashy, right? So let us remind ourselves, for those of us who haven't read the Bible lately, or perhaps not at all, what how Mark writes the story. This is chapter 6, I believe. Yes. Starting at verse 39. Then he ordered them to get all the people, he being Jesus and them being the disciples, to get all the people to sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and of 50s. Taking up the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves and gave them to his disciples to set before the people. And he divided the 2 fish among them all, and all ate and were filled. And they took up 12 baskets of broken pieces and of the fish. Those who had eaten the loaves numbered 5,000 men. Now, what does that tell us about order? It tells us that it's much easier to hand stuff out or to collect things if you're in order. Can you imagine the ushers trying to take up the love offering if we all had our own lawn chairs and we just kind of, put our chair down where we landed in here? It's a lot easier to do it when things are in an orderly way. It also helps to focus our brains. It helps for us to, as we're going through this, to say, yes, you've received one, and you've received one, and you've received one, and I know that first row is taken care of. And so I can move to the first row over here and do this. I want you to imagine something in your life where maybe that might be, a possible way of expressing a spiritual principle of order. Perhaps I remember when I learned this in grad school, that it took my kettle about as much time to boil as it did for me to shower. So first thing to do when I get out of bed is put the kettle on and then go hop in the shower, and then my water's ready for my tea. And I've saved myself a little bit of time waiting for the kettle to boil. About doing things in an orderly way. So having said that about order, I bet you're saying, but wait a minute, Wendy, you talked about past, present, and future. Guess where I'm at? I'm at the past, present, and future. So what if it's something that's holding me back from my past? Something that I learned as a child, whether it was from my family of origin, my church of origin, my school of origin, the media at the time, wherever. It doesn't matter where it came from. But that we learn certain things about what order is. Or what if it's something that's in the future? Perhaps you've seen the house or apartment of your dreams and you want to buy it, but you got to get rid of the unit you've got already. I remember a time we were carrying 3 different condos, and we needed some serious order to make sure that those things got done, that the bills were paid, that the mortgages were kept up. And then when we put 2 of them on the market, that we went through the processes to ensure a good sale. So as I started to say at the beginning, we've got this concept of time. Quote from each of our co-founders: "A day is a measure of time in the realm of effects. A sidereal day is that period in which the earth rotates once on its axis. Man divided that period into seconds, minutes, and hours, and thus invented time." I was thinking about that, and the discussion that some folks have about, well, God created the world in 24 hours as we know it right now. Perhaps, or perhaps we've misunderstood day and night as meaning something else. And then from Myrtle, "We know that spirit does not recognize time and that years are only a false conception in the mind of man. So we take no cognizance of the passing of years." One of the big things that Unity and other New Thought groups and groups that drew from the works of Ralph Waldo Emerson got into was the belief and very firm belief and principle that there was no time or space in spirit, that there was not a separation of people. And that was really big because there was a belief prior to that, generally, that you had to be physically with someone to do a healing prayer, that you had to physically put your hands on someone for it to be effective, and that you had to, if it didn't work, that was what the problem was, with it, that you weren't physically there. And instead, they were able to demonstrate that there was no time or space, that you could pray at a different time and realize effects without having to be physically present. And that is one of the core beliefs of Silent Unity, is that they don't have to be physically with you in the room. They don't have to be with you on the phone. That back in the day when they were telegraphed or sent in by snail mail, and now you can send a request in by email, that it doesn't matter, that time is not there. It's a construct. So, okay, these two quotes are from close to 100 years ago. I found something a little newer. Any Whovians out there? I have a second trinity in my life: Doctor Who, Star Wars, and Star Trek. There we go. But this is probably one of my favorite quotes from the Peter Capaldi version of the Doctor. "Time doesn't pass. The passage of time is an illusion, and life is the magician. Because life only lets you see one day at a time. You remember being alive yesterday. You hope you'll be alive tomorrow. So it feels like you're traveling from one to the other. But nobody's moving anywhere. Movies don't really move. They're just pictures. Lots and lots of pictures. All of them still. None of them moving. Just frozen moments. But if you experience the pictures one at a time, then everything comes alive. Imagine if time all happened at once. Every moment of your life laid out around you like a city. Streets full of buildings made of days, the day you were born, the day you die. The day you fall in love, the day love ends. A whole city built from triumph and heartbreak and boredom and laughter and cutting your toenails. The best place you'll ever be. Time is the space made by our lives where we stand together forever. It means life. Love that concept of it, that if I can back myself out of being totally engaged in the concept of time, even if it's just while I'm meditating, it's a good thing. So we've talked about order, but what happens if chaos reemerges? I'm going to give you some thoughts. Pause or stop and breathe. Wendy's rule of life, number 1, keep breathing. Nothing else matters at that point. Be gentle with yourself. It may be that there's something that you have no control over, only your response to it. So as I was sharing with some of you before service started, I didn't know the 403 was going to be partially closed on my way here today. And I said, oh, we're being sent off this exit. Oh, well, I know if I turn right and go up about 2 kilometers, I will be at Highway 2. And I know that Highway 2 goes straight into London and or other on-ramps to the 401. So I'll do one or the other. Might be a little late, but it's okay, because I left myself enough time that I wouldn't be rushing in right about now. So it's about controlling how we respond. And remind yourself that you have spiritual tools to help you get back in alignment. And please be gentle with yourself as you bring yourself back into alignment. But some examples of a toolbox. I love the idea of a spiritual toolbox. There's just something for me that really glommed onto when I look at my own personal toolbox that I made over many years. Every tool has a purpose, and very few of them are multi-purpose tools. I do have a couple of those, like, a little multi-purpose thing that goes in my pocket when I'm out hiking. But in terms of my toolbox, so what might we have in our spiritual toolbox? We have prayer and meditation and quiet time. We might have exercise or yoga or dance, some kind of movement. We would have inspirational works by others, books, videos, TED Talks, audio things, booklets, whatever. We have journaling, that idea of taking some time for ourselves and capturing our ideas, our thoughts, our feelings, or even just to debrief something that's upset us so that we can let it go at a deeper level. Creative arts, music, drawing, pottery, whatever, weaving, all sorts of things. And then small groups within unity or small groups outside of unity. The idea that we have so many opportunities to practice our spirituality. And so much more. And so let's practice with some meditation right now. And I'm just going to invite you to get comfortable in your chair. I do have a couple slides for you to participate in. So if you want to keep your eyes open just for now. Paraphrasing one of my favorite poems. I was fretting about the past and ruining decisions I had made. And then I became aware of the Christ within, who said, "Do not worry, my name is not I was. So your experience of me will not be as full." And then when I turned to worrying about the future, that same consciousness said, "I hear your worry. And remember, my name is not I will be." When you live in the now, when you live in the instant, it is much easier, for your name is I am. And in that consciousness of the I am, we give ourselves permission to leave the past and the future just outside. Everything will be waiting for us, but we give ourselves permission to come fully present to this now moment. to this opportunity just to breathe into some spiritual principles. And drawing on our monthly affirmations, I will read them once and then pause, and then I'll invite you to read them with me. Our affirmation for inner peace. My mind quiets in the presence of divine peace. And together. My mind quiets in the presence of divine peace. Our affirmation for wisdom. In the silence of prayer, I hear a whisper of truth. And together. In the silence of prayer, I hear a whisper of truth. Our affirmation for vitality. God is the breath of life, the vitality in my body and being. And together. God is the breath of life, the vitality in my body and being. And for prosperity. I am rich in divine ideas, wealthy in divine abundance. And together. I am rich in divine ideas, wealthy in divine abundance. And for faith. The road ahead may be unseen, but I walk by faith and not by sight. And together. The road ahead may be unseen, but I walk by faith and not by sight. And let us just take those 5 affirmations into our minds, into our hearts, encouraging both to say yes, if it feels right. For what is right is your understanding at this moment in time. Breathing into this. We give thanks for the consciousness of order and of an understanding that time is neither here nor there. It is now. And in this consciousness, we take an affirmation for the week. Understanding divine order, I can embrace paradox and navigate chaos while keeping my balance. And so it is, and so am I. Amen.
How do you thank a speaker like Wendy? I kept thinking, well, you could thank her that way, yes. But I think she took the little clicker with her. Some of you know that Wendy was my first online teacher for classes. So I've been blessed to hear her wisdom over several years. But I thought today, if I'd never heard Wendy speak before, I would just have this flow of comfort and reassurance because of how she shares and what she shares. And there's something about Wendy sharing scripture, but also sharing practical, down to earth ways of how we can be without making it sound as though it's an invitation to be perfect. That she recognizes and appreciates our humanity and our difficulties sometimes. So Wendy, from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of all of us and all who may hear this, thank you, thank you. This is a song that we heard last week, and if you want to sing along, please join in.
I am an expression of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit. I am an expression of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit. A beautiful expression of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit. Magnificent expression of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit. A unique, unrepeatable expression of God. 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 I am an expression of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit. I am an expression of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit. Right time, right place, an expression of the Spirit, of the Spirit. I'm fabulous, I got it, an expression of the Spirit, of the Spirit. A unique, unrepeatable expression of God. 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 I am an expression of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit. I am an expression of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit, of the Spirit.
Glad you like that song. And it's not the end, it's the beginning when you think of it. And it has such a rhythm that if sometime you're feeling rattled, you might just think of that message of who you are. We have an opportunity to donate of our talent, our treasure, and our time, wherever we are, to whatever cause we feel is important. And we have such a generous community. We have generous visitors who realize that everything that you contribute keeps us alive and healthy at Unity of London. So we are very generous in our sharing of talent, time, and treasure because we are recognizing the abundance that we have. And when Wendy referred to being in the grocery store and big long line rather than complaining, just being grateful that she has, and all of us have enough abundance to buy food, to have a home in which to live, to have friends who support us. That's something for which we're truly grateful. So I'll invite Renee and Kate back up, and we will share our prosperity blessing together. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I invite you to share in our affirmations. The light of God surrounds me. I am the light. The love of God enfolds me. I am the love. The power of God protects me. I am the power. The presence of God watches over me. I am the presence. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. And here at Unity, we say, yay, God. And then we join together in a circle. If that feels comfortable for you, we hold hands and we sing our song. And just before everybody goes away into the fellowship room, if anybody wanted to come up and share a message for Wendy, their response, what did you think of her presentation? I don't know. Come on up, Peggy Matzer. Yay.
Oh, Wendy, is this on? Yeah, I'm just so happy that you didn't get detoured off number 2 as well. And that you made it here on time, because I always try to make sure I come when you're the speaker, because I really relate to the things that you say. I love your little anecdotes that you give us about being in line. That has happened to me. I've been in those lineups and I thought, okay, deep breaths, just, you don't have to be anywhere, just be in the moment. So and your imagery of that poem, you said it was a poem, and I'm not, my name isn't I was, my name is not I will be, my name is I am. And that is a little nugget that I will take away with me. So thank you so much for that.
I wonder if anyone online would like to share. They're all invisible. Does anyone else here want to share? Come on up, Gary.
Well, beginning to speak before I get to the mic. I'm not excited, but yesterday I was with a group of friends and we were talking about life and so on. And one of the things that came up about decisions and how to keep oneself in check, I might say. There's a lot of stresses in life, and a lot depends on how we deal with those stresses. And it's what you touched on in your talk here today, Wendy, and I'm very thankful for that. You've emphasized what I learned in that group. When we react, it's based on our emotion. But when we respond, it's a decision we make. It comes from more than emotion. So we want to be able to control ourselves by making the right decisions, the right, not reactions, but response. Yeah. Thank you.